My name is Margaret Sullivan, but everyone calls me Maggie. I'm 70 years old, and 3 days ago, on my birthday, my daughter told me something that shattered my world. "You've had your time, Mom." 5 words. That's all it took to erase 70 years of sacrifice. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. I was standing in my living room, the same brownstone on Shawmut Avenue where I'd raised Amanda alone after my husband Robert died 5 years ago. The same house where I'd worked 3 jobs to pay for her college tuition. $67,000. Every penny counted, every night shift endured. Now Amanda stood there wearing a $12,000 Cartier watch I'd bought her last Christmas, serving me a $4.99 supermarket cake with 1 broken candle. "You've had your time, Mom. Now it's our turn to live." Brian, my son-in-law, nodded beside her. 48 years old, balding, with calculating eyes that never smiled. The kind of man who puts a price tag on everything, including family. My granddaughter Evelyn held up her iPhone, filming. I could see the screen. She was posting it as an Instagram story. The caption read, "Grandma's birthday, touch, cringe, Dr. Boomer." 30 people watched. Neighbors, Amanda's colleagues, people from St. James Church. Nobody said a word. "We've been talking," Amanda continued, smoothing her designer dress, another gift I'd financed. "Brian and I think it's time you considered your options. This house is too big for one person. You're getting older, Mom. We worry about you being alone." The way she said options made my stomach turn. I knew what she meant. She'd been hinting for months. Retirement homes, assisted living, places where old people wait to die. "I'm fine here," I said, voice trembling. "I've lived in this house for 43 years. Your father and I—" "Dad's gone, Mom." Amanda's voice had that sharp edge I'd learned to recognize. The edge that meant the conversation was over. "You can't keep living in the past." My sister Karen laughed from the corner. 67 years old, always jealous since we were teenagers. Finally, someone had the courage to speak the truth. Maggie's always been so dramatic. The room erupted in awkward laughter. People looked away. Uncomfortable smiles everywhere. I cut the cheap cake with shaking hands. The frosting was industrial, chemical. Nothing like the homemade 7-layer cakes I used to bake for Amanda's birthdays. Strawberry filling, her name spelled in chocolate letters. Nobody ate more than 1 bite. "We should discuss the house," Brian said, pulling out his phone. I had it appraised. Current market value, $340,000. Split properly, Amanda and I could really use that capital. You could take your share, find a nice little apartment. Less maintenance, less worry. Split properly, as if it was already decided. As if my house, my home, my life was just a real estate transaction. "I haven't agreed to sell anything," I said. Amanda sighed like I was a difficult child. "Mom, be reasonable. You're 70 years old. How much longer can you keep up with a 3-story house? The stairs alone are dangerous at your age." At your age. As if being 70 meant I was already dead. Evelyn kept filming. I saw her smirking behind the phone, recording her grandmother's humiliation for entertainment. The party ended fast. People made excuses. Early mornings, prior commitments, sick children. Within 20 minutes, my living room was empty except for dirty paper plates and that horrible supermarket cake melting on the table. Amanda kissed my cheek, cold, perfunctory, and whispered, "Think about what we said, Mom. We only want what's best for you." Then they were gone. Even Karen left without saying goodbye. I stood alone in my empty house. The church bells from St. James rang 6 times. The hour Robert and I used to have dinner together. I touched the silver locket around my neck. The one I'd worn every day for 45 years. The one nobody ever asked about. Inside was a photograph nobody had ever seen. That night, I couldn't sleep. Amanda's words kept replaying. "You've had your time." As if my life was already over. As if everything I'd done, everything I'd sacrificed, meant nothing now that I wasn't useful anymore. At 2 in the morning, I got up to make tea. That's when I saw Brian's phone on the kitchen counter. He'd left it behind. Probably intentionally. Probably planning to come back later with another excuse to pressure me. The screen lit up when I touched it. A message notification. From Amanda. "Did you get her to sign? We need those papers by Friday or we lose the buyer. My hands went numb. Buyer? What buyer? I opened the phone. Brian never used passwords, too arrogant to think anyone would dare, and found a message thread going back 3 months. Amanda. Mom's being stubborn. We need to push harder. Brian. I can forge her signature on the power of attorney. I've done it before for other clients. Amanda. Are you sure it's legal? Brian. Who cares? By the time anyone notices, the house will be sold and money will be in our accounts. What's she going to do? Sue her own daughter? I read every message, every calculated word, every cold discussion about stealing my home. The final message was from yesterday. Brian, if she won't cooperate, we have other options. I know a doctor who will declare her mentally incompetent for the right price. $5,000 and we can have her declared unfit to manage her own affairs. I sat at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd fed Amanda as a baby, dried her tears after her first heartbreak, signed the $67,000 check for her college without hesitation. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. For 45 years, I'd kept a secret nobody knew. For 45 years, I'd protected my family even when they didn't deserve it. But that night, staring at messages planning to rob me, I understood something. Protection has limits. I looked out the kitchen window. In the backyard, under the porch light, I saw them. Amanda and Karen, standing together, laughing, my daughter and my sister, sharing a cigarette, celebrating. Karen put her hand on Amanda's shoulder, said something I couldn't hear. Amanda nodded, smiled that calculating smile I'd seen on Brian's face. They'd planned this together. Not just Amanda and Brian. Karen, too, the sister who'd always envied me, who'd never forgiven me for marrying Robert when she'd wanted him for herself, who'd spent 53 years collecting grievances like receipts. Now she was helping my daughter steal my house. I took out my phone and did something I never thought I'd do. I searched for jobs, housekeeping positions, live-in positions. At 70 years old, with arthritis in my knees and tired eyes. But I needed to leave. I needed time to think, to plan. And most importantly, I needed distance from these people I didn't recognize anymore. The first listing was perfect in its irony. Wealthy family in Beacon Hill seeking live-in housekeeper. Salary, $2,800 monthly plus accommodation. Requirements, discretion, experience with elderly, immediate availability. I sent my resume at 3 a.m. At 6, I received a response. Mrs. Sullivan, Mr. Charles Whitmore would like to interview you today at 10 a.m. Address, 18 Louisburg Square. Louisburg Square, the most expensive neighborhood in Boston, where mansions cost millions and residents had surnames on street signs. I showered, dressed in my best black dress, the same one from Robert's funeral, and left without a note. Let Amanda wonder where I'd gone. Let Brian search for his phone. Let Evelyn run out of content for her damn Instagram. For the first time in 70 years, I was doing something just for myself. The Whitmore mansion was exactly what I'd imagined. 5 stories of dark red brick, iron gate with family crest, private garden that looked like it belonged in an English magazine. I rang the doorbell. A deep, solemn sound echoed from inside. The door opened. A man in his early 80s stood there, leaning on a carved wooden cane, perfectly combed white hair, tweed suit, blue eyes that seemed to see through people. Mrs. Sullivan? His voice was deep but gentle. I'm Charles Whitmore. Please, come in. I entered a house that smelled of beeswax, old books, and old money. The kind of money that doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. Coffee? He offered. Please. We sat in the library. Oak shelves floor to ceiling, thousands of books, a crystal chandelier probably worth more than my entire house. I'll be direct, Mrs. Sullivan, Charles began, pouring coffee into delicate porcelain cups. My wife died 2 years ago. My grandson Henry lives here. He's 23, studying medicine at Harvard, very quiet boy. We need someone to manage the household. Cooking, light cleaning, company. My last housekeeper retired to Florida last month. He paused, studying me with those sharp blue eyes. Your resume says you're 70. Most people your age are enjoying retirement. Why are you looking for live-in work? I could have lied, could have invented something dignified. Instead, the truth came out like poison I'd been holding too long. Because my daughter is trying to steal my house. Because my family thinks I'm a burden. Because I need somewhere safe while I figure out my next move. Charles didn't react with shock or pity, just nodded slowly, as if I'd confirmed something he already suspected. Family can be the cruelest, he said quietly. When my wife was dying, both our daughters fought over her jewelry before she was even gone. Haven't spoken to them in 2 years. He set down his coffee cup. The position is yours, Mrs. Sullivan. You can move in today if you'd like. 3rd floor has a private suite. Bathroom, sitting room, everything you need. Salary is $2,800 monthly, paid on the 1st. No questions asked about your personal situation. Tears burned my eyes. This stranger was offering me more kindness than my own daughter had in years. Thank you, I whispered. One condition, Charles added. I'm a retired federal judge. I spent 40 years seeing people at their worst. If you need legal help with your family situation, I have resources. Good lawyers who owe me favors. Just say the word. I touched my locket, felt the weight of 45 years of secrets pressing against my chest. I might take you up on that, Mr. Whitmore. Charles, please. That afternoon, I returned to my house on Shawmut Avenue one last time. Amanda's car was parked outside. She and Brian were inside, going through my things. I walked in without knocking. It was still my house, after all. Mom! Amanda jumped, guilty. We were worried about you. You weren't answering your phone. I'm moving out, I said simply. Today. Brian's face lit up with barely concealed triumph. That's wonderful, Mom. Very mature decision. Now about the house. The house stays mine, I interrupted. I'm not selling. I'm not signing anything. I'm simply removing myself from this toxic situation while I decide my next steps. Amanda's expression shifted from fake concern to cold anger. Mom, that's not how this works. We've already made arrangements. The buyer is expecting. I don't care what the buyer expects. This is my house, my name on the deed, my decision. I walked upstairs and packed a single suitcase. Photos of Robert, the locket, my mother's Bible, a few clothes. Everything else could burn for all I cared. When I came back downstairs, Amanda blocked the door. You can't just leave like this. We need to talk about your mental state. Brian and I are concerned you're not thinking clearly. I looked at my daughter, this 45-year-old woman I'd raised alone, sacrificed everything for, and saw a stranger. Move, I said quietly. Mom, move. Or I call the police and show them Brian's phone messages about forging my signature. Amanda's face went white. You went through Brian's phone? He left it on my kitchen table. Convenient, wasn't it? Brian grabbed Amanda's arm. Let her go. We'll handle this another way. I walked out of my house carrying one suitcase and 45 years of secrets. Behind me, I heard Amanda's voice, sharp with panic. Mom! Mom! Wait! We can talk about this! But I didn't turn around. The church bells rang 7 times as I walked toward Beacon Hill, toward a mansion owned by a stranger who'd shown me more kindness in 1 hour than my own family had in years. That night, in my new room on the 3rd floor of the Whitmore mansion, I stood at the window looking out at Boston's lights. My phone buzzed. 17 missed calls from Amanda, 12 from Brian, 5 from Karen. I turned it off. Tomorrow, I'd change my number. Tomorrow, I'd meet with Charles's lawyers. Tomorrow, I'd start planning my response to this betrayal. But tonight, I just stood there touching my locket. Inside was a photograph of a baby nobody knew about, a secret I'd kept for 45 years. And soon, that secret was going to change everything. I woke up in the Whitmore mansion to the smell of fresh coffee and something I hadn't felt in years: peace. The 3rd floor suite was bigger than my entire bedroom at home. Large windows overlooked the private garden. White curtains moved gently in the morning breeze. The bed was soft, the sheets were Egyptian cotton, and for the first time in months, I'd slept through the night. Charles had left a note under my door. Breakfast at 8, no rush. See. I dressed in my plain housekeeping clothes, black pants, white blouse, and went downstairs. The kitchen was enormous. Marble counters, copper pots hanging from the ceiling, a gas stove that looked like it belonged in a restaurant. Charles sat at a small table by the window, reading the Boston Globe. Good morning, Margaret. Coffee's fresh. Henry's still asleep. Medical students keep terrible hours. I poured myself a cup. The coffee was rich, dark, nothing like the instant powder I'd been drinking for years to save money. I should start earning my keep, I said. What needs to be done? Charles smiled. Relax today. Learn the house. Henry will be down around noon. He'd like to meet you. Tomorrow we'll establish a routine. At exactly 11:30, my phone rang. The new number I'd gotten yesterday. But somehow, they'd found it. Amanda. I stared at the screen. Let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Charles looked up from his newspaper. You don't have to answer. I know. But I did anyway. Better to face it now. Mom, thank God. We've been so worried. How did you get this number? Silence. Then Brian's voice in the background. Tell her we just want to talk. Mom, please, can we come see you? Just to talk. No pressure, I promise. I looked at Charles. He nodded slightly, as if reading my mind. Fine, 2 o'clock. I'll text you the address. I hung up. They're coming, I said. Good, Charles replied. Let them come. This is my house. My rules. At exactly 2 o'clock, 3 cars pulled up to 18 Louisburg Square. Amanda's Mercedes, Brian's BMW, and Karen's old Honda. Karen. Of course she'd come too. I watched from the library window as they got out. Amanda wore her power suit, the one she wore to intimidate opposing lawyers. Brian carried a leather folder. Karen had her phone out, probably texting someone. And Evelyn was with them, phone raised, already filming. Charles stood beside me. Ready? No, but let's do it anyway. We met them in the front parlor. A formal room with uncomfortable Victorian furniture. Perfect for unwelcome guests. Amanda stopped in the doorway, taking in the mansion's grandeur. I saw the calculation in her eyes, seeing dollar signs where I saw safety. Mom, whose house is this? Her voice was sharp with suspicion. This is Mr. Charles Whitmore. I work for him now. Work? Brian laughed. Mom, you're 70 years old. You should be retired, not supporting ungrateful children who plan to steal my house? I interrupted. I found your messages, Brian. All of them. His face went white. Karen stepped forward, voice dripping with fake concern. Maggie, sweetheart, we're just worried about you. This behavior, running away, taking a job at your age, it's not normal. We think you might need help. Help? I felt my voice rising. Like the help you've been giving Amanda, plotting against me. You've hated me since 1970, Karen. Don't pretend this is about concern. Karen's mask slipped. Just for a second, I saw the rage underneath. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're paranoid, Maggie. Always have been. Ever since you stole, I stole nothing. I cut her off. Whatever story you've been telling yourself for 53 years is a lie. Amanda pulled out papers from Brian's folder. Mom, we brought something for you to sign. Just a simple power of attorney. It's for your protection. I'm not signing anything. Mrs. Sullivan doesn't need protection from anyone except her own family, Charles said quietly. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. I'm a retired federal judge. I know exactly what you're trying to do here, and I suggest you leave. Now. Brian's face flushed red. This is between us and my mother-in-law. This is my house, and you're trespassing. Evelyn, still filming, whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. This is crazy. Grandma's living with some random rich guy. Turn that phone off, I snapped. Now. For the first time, Evelyn looked uncertain, but she didn't stop recording. Amanda's voice turned cold. Mom, if you don't cooperate, we're prepared to take legal action. We have a doctor who'll testify that you're not mentally competent to live alone. We can have you declared. Get out. The voice came from the doorway. A young man stood there. Tall, dark-haired, wearing scrubs. He looked exhausted, like he'd just finished a hospital shift. Henry, Charles said. You're home early. I heard shouting. Henry walked into the room, positioning himself between me and my family. Grandfather, are these people bothering Mrs. Sullivan? They were just leaving, Charles said. But Amanda wasn't done. This is ridiculous. Mom, you're making a huge mistake. That house is worth $340,000. You're sitting on a fortune while living like a servant. I'd rather be a servant in a house with kindness than a prisoner in my own home with thieves. The words hung in the air. Karen grabbed Amanda's arm. Come on. She's clearly not thinking straight. We'll come back when she's more reasonable. As they turned to leave, I saw Amanda and Karen exchange a look. A knowing look. A look that said, this isn't over. Brian paused at the door. You're going to regret this, Mom. When you're sick and alone and need help, remember who tried to take care of you. Then they were gone. Henry locked the door behind them. Mrs. Sullivan, are you okay? I realized I was shaking. Not from fear, from rage. I'm fine. Thank you. Charles poured me a glass of water. Margaret, I think we need to have that conversation about lawyers now. Yes, please. That night I couldn't sleep again. I kept thinking about Amanda's face, the coldness in her eyes, the way she looked at this house like it was something to conquer. Around midnight, I went down to the kitchen for tea. Henry was there, making himself a sandwich. Can't sleep either? He asked. Too much on my mind. We sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then Henry noticed my locket. That's beautiful. Family heirloom? My hand instinctively closed around it. Something like that. May I ask what's inside? It's complicated. Henry nodded, not pushing. My grandmother had a locket too. She never showed anyone what was in it. Said some memories are too sacred to share. Sacred? That was the word. Your family seems difficult, he said carefully. That's putting it mildly. For what it's worth, I think you're brave. Most people your age would just give in. Sign whatever. Keep the peace. I'm done keeping peace at the cost of my dignity. Henry smiled. Good. This house could use someone with spine. Grandfather's been lonely since grandmother died. And I'm not exactly social. Why's that? He shrugged. Medical school doesn't leave time for much else. And honestly, after watching my aunts fight over grandmother's jewelry while she was dying, he trailed off. I learned that blood doesn't always mean family. I looked at this young man, this stranger who'd defended me without hesitation, and felt something shift. No, I agreed. It doesn't. My phone buzzed. A text from Amanda. This isn't over, Mom. We're not giving up on you. Not giving up on me, as if I was a project. A problem to be solved. I showed Henry the message. What are you going to do? He asked. I thought about the forged power of attorney, the planned sale of my house, the doctor who'd declare me incompetent for $5,000. I'm going to fight back, I said quietly. Henry's eyes met mine. In them, I saw understanding, respect. Good. If you need help, let me know. The next 3 days felt like living in a different world. I woke at 6, made breakfast for Charles and Henry, cleaned rooms that were already spotless, and tried not to think about the house on Shawmut Avenue. My house. Still legally mine, but feeling more distant every day. Amanda called 14 times. I answered none of them. Brian left voicemails, threats disguised as concern. Mom, we're worried about your judgment. Please call us before we're forced to take legal action. Karen sent texts. Maggie, stop being stubborn. Family takes care of family. Family. The word had lost all meaning. On the 4th night, I couldn't sleep. Again. At midnight, I went down to the kitchen. The house was silent except for the old grandfather clock in the hallway, ticking away seconds like a heartbeat. I filled the sink with hot water, added lemon dish soap, the smell reminded me of my mother, and began washing the dinner dishes by hand, even though there was a perfectly good dishwasher. Rain started outside, soft at first, then harder. I watched it stream down the kitchen window, distorting the streetlights into blurry stars. Can't sleep either? I jumped. Charles stood in the doorway wearing a burgundy robe and slippers. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. I haven't slept well since Eleanor died. He moved slowly to the table, sat down with a soft groan. 2 years, and I still wake up reaching for her side of the bed. I dried my hands, poured him a glass of water without asking. He smiled. I was already learning his routines. How long were you married? I asked. 54 years. Met her at Harvard. She was studying art history. I was in law school. Everyone said it wouldn't last. I was too serious. She was too free-spirited. He stared into his water glass. They were wrong. Robert and I had 43 years, I said quietly, until the cancer took him. And now your daughter wants to take what's left. It wasn't a question. I sat across from him. I keep asking myself where I went wrong. I gave her everything. Paid for her education, her wedding, her clothes. My voice broke. I thought love meant sacrifice. It does, Charles said, but sacrifice should be appreciated, not exploited. There's a difference between giving and being robbed. The rain grew louder against the windows. Did you ever want to give up? I asked. When your daughters fought over Eleanor's things? Every day. He smiled sadly. But Eleanor made me promise something before she died. She said, Charles, don't let bitterness poison your last years. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to say no. Those words hit me like a physical blow. You're allowed to say no. For 70 years, I'd believed saying no meant being selfish, being a bad mother, being unloving. I have something to show you, I said suddenly. I went upstairs, retrieved the envelope I'd been carrying since I left Shawmut Avenue. Inside was the forged power of attorney, the document I'd found hidden in Amanda's car last week while she was inside my house, helping me organize. Back in the kitchen, I spread it on the table. Charles put on his reading glasses, studied it carefully. His jaw tightened. This signature isn't even close to yours. Any notary worth their license would reject this immediately. He looked up. But Brian was planning to use a corrupt notary, wasn't he? Someone who'd stamp anything for the right price. Yes. Charles stood, walked to the fireplace in the adjoining living room. Bring it here. I followed him. He struck a match, held it to the corner of the document. Wait, shouldn't we keep it as evidence? I photographed it 3 days ago when you first showed me. The paper caught fire, curling and blackening. This is symbolic. You're not their victim anymore, Margaret. You're free. I watched the forged signature burn. Watched Amanda's carefully planned theft turn to ash. And for the first time since my birthday, I felt something other than fear. I felt power. Enough, I whispered. It's over. Charles nodded approvingly. Now we plan your counterattack. The next morning, my phone rang at 7. A number I didn't recognize. Mrs. Sullivan, this is attorney Patricia Morrison from Beacon Legal Associates. Mr. Whitmore asked me to call you. I specialize in elder abuse cases. My hands trembled. Elder abuse. That's what this is, isn't it? Yes, ma'am. And it's more common than you'd think. Family members attempting to gain control of assets through coercion, forgery, or false incompetency declarations. Mr. Whitmore sent me documentation. What your daughter and son-in-law are attempting is illegal on multiple fronts. What can I do? First, we file an injunction preventing any sale of your property. Second, we petition for a protective order. Third, and this is important, we gather evidence of their attempts to defraud you. Mr. Whitmore mentioned recovered text messages? Yes, from Brian's phone. Perfect. Can you forward those to me? And Mrs. Sullivan? You might want to consider a restraining order. Based on what I'm seeing, this could escalate. After I hung up, Charles appeared with coffee. Patricia's good. She helped a colleague of mine fight off his grandson's attempt to declare him incompetent. The grandson ended up indicted. Indicted? Elder fraud is a federal crime. If they forged your signature, if they coerced you, if they paid a doctor to lie about your mental state, that's serious prison time. The thought should have brought satisfaction. Instead, I felt hollow. This was my daughter, my only child. At noon, Amanda called again. This time, I answered, Mom, finally, listen. I'm sorry about the other day. We came on too strong. Can we start over? Maybe have lunch? Just you and me? Her voice was honey-sweet. Fake. Amanda, I know about the forged power of attorney. Silence. Long and cold. I don't know what you're talking about. The one in your glove compartment. The one with my signature that Brian forged. The one you were planning to use to sell my house without my consent. More silence. Then ice. You went through my car? You went through my life. Mom, you're being paranoid. We were only trying to help. I've hired a lawyer. Patricia Morrison from Beacon Legal. If you or Brian or Karen come near me again, I'm filing a restraining order. And if you proceed with any attempt to sell my property, you'll be arrested for fraud. You can't do this. We're your family. Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't forge. Family doesn't plot to have their mother declared insane for money. I hung up. My hands were steady. My voice had been strong. For the first time in my life, I'd fought back. That evening, Henry found me in the garden. I was planting roses, something to keep my hands busy, my mind quiet. Mrs. Sullivan? He crouched beside me. Grandfather told me what you did today. That took courage. Or stupidity? I might have just declared war on my own daughter. Sometimes war is necessary. He helped me pack soil around a root. My aunts declared war on my grandfather over grandmother's estate. They lost. Not because grandfather was rich or powerful, but because he was right. I looked at this young man, 23 years old, wise beyond his years. Why are you so kind to a stranger? I asked. Because you remind me of my grandmother. She took care of everyone, and when she got sick, everyone abandoned her except grandfather and me. His voice hardened. I watched my aunt's visit once, take jewelry from her nightstand while she slept, and never come back. I swore I'd never be that person. We finished planting in silence. That night, I received an email from Patricia Morrison. Subject, urgent. House sale attempt. Mrs. Sullivan, we've been monitoring county records. Your daughter filed preliminary sale paperwork 3 hours ago using what appears to be forged documentation. I've immediately filed an emergency injunction. You need to come to my office tomorrow at 9 a.m. This is escalating faster than expected. My heart pounded. They weren't backing down. They were accelerating. I forwarded the email to Charles. His response was immediate. Don't worry. We're ready. Tomorrow we fight back. I touched my locket. Inside, the photograph I'd hidden for 45 years seemed to burn against my chest. Soon, Amanda would learn the truth about that photograph. And when she did, everything would change. Patricia Morrison's office was all glass and steel. 32nd floor. Views of Boston Harbor. The kind of place that charged $500 an hour. Don't worry about fees, Charles had said that morning. Patricia owes me. I appointed her to the bench 20 years ago. Now she sat across from me, sharp-eyed and efficient, spreading documents across her conference table. Mrs. Sullivan, your daughter moved fast, but she made mistakes. Patricia pointed to a signature. This notary stamp? Fake. The notary listed doesn't exist in Massachusetts registry. Brian got sloppy. Can we stop the sale? Already done. I filed an emergency injunction at 8 this morning. Judge Richardson signed it 30 minutes ago. Any attempt to sell your property is now illegal. If they proceed, it's criminal fraud. Relief flooded through me. But there's more, Patricia continued. I did some digging into Brian Torres. He's drowning in debt. Gambling debts, specifically. Owes $73,000 to some very unpleasant people. My stomach dropped. Loan sharks? Exactly. Which explains the desperate timeline. He needs your house money to stay alive. Charles leaned forward. Patricia, what about the medical angle? The doctor they threatened to use? Dr. Ronald Kemp. Struck off the medical register twice, reinstated on technicalities. He runs a private practice in Quincy. For $5,000 cash, he'll declare anyone incompetent. She smiled coldly. I've already notified the state medical board. They're investigating. Good, Charles said. Then to me, Margaret, with your permission, I'd like to make some phone calls. Strategic ones. What kind of calls? His blue eyes were ice. The kind that remind people what happens when they cross someone with 40 years of connections. I should have felt guilty. Should have said no. Instead, I said, do it. Charles made his first call at noon from his library with me present. Richard? Charles Whitmore. Yes, long time. Listen, I need a favor regarding Sterling and Associates. You still on their board? Pause. Good. I have concerns about one of their associates, Amanda Torres. Ethics violations, potential fraud. Another pause. I'll send documentation. Yes, quietly. Thank you, Richard. He hung up, dialed again immediately. Marcus, old friend. Your firm handles collections, correct? I have information about a debtor named Brian Torres. $73,000 in gambling debts. He's attempting to commit real estate fraud to pay you. Pause. Yes, I thought you'd be interested. His office address is... One more call. Susan. Charles Whitmore. I'm calling about the Massachusetts Board of Education pension review. A Karen Sullivan, retired teacher from Newton. I've received information about irregularities in her final certification. Pause. Yes, 20 years ago, but fraud has no statute of limitations. I listened, fascinated and horrified. Charles wasn't yelling, wasn't threatening, just making calm, factual statements to people who owed him favors. It was surgical. How long before? I started. By tomorrow, Amanda will be on administrative leave. Brian will have collectors at his office. Karen will receive an audit notice. He smiled grimly. Welcome to the consequences of their actions. The next afternoon, my phone exploded. First, Brian, voice shaking. What did you do? These men came to my office. They knew everything. They're demanding payment immediately or... He stopped. I heard fear. Real fear. I hung up. Then Amanda. Not scared. Furious. Mom, I just got suspended from work. They're investigating me for ethics violations. This is your doing, isn't it? You and that rich old man. Amanda, you forged my signature. You tried to steal my house. What did you expect? I expected my mother to act like family. Family doesn't commit fraud. Silence. Then venom. You're going to regret this. She hung up. 10 minutes later, Karen called, crying. Maggie, please, they're auditing my pension. They're saying I falsified certification documents in 2003. I could lose everything. Please tell them it's a mistake. Is it a mistake, Karen? Long silence. That's what I thought, I said, and disconnected. Henry appeared in the doorway, grinning. Grandfather is terrifying when he wants to be. He's efficient, I corrected. But I was smiling too. That evening, something happened that made the whole thing perfect. Brian called, desperate. Mom, I need money. 20,000. Just a loan. These people, they're serious? They're going to... Sell your Cartier watch, I said calmly. The one Amanda wears. $12,000 should help. That watch? Amanda said you bought it for her. I did. Last Christmas. $12,000 at Shreve, Crump and Low. Pause. Mom, that watch is fake. My turn to pause. What? Amanda bought a replica online for $300. She told me you'd never know the difference because you can't see the serial numbers without a jeweler's loupe. I started laughing. Couldn't help it. All these months, Amanda had been wearing a $300 fake while making me feel guilty for not giving more. That's perfect, I whispered. What? Nothing, Brian. Good luck with your debt collectors. I hung up, still laughing. Henry looked confused. What's funny? My daughter's been pretending to be rich while stealing from me to pay her debts, and even her luxury watch is a lie. Charles chuckled. Poetic justice. That night, unable to sleep again, I stood at my window. The locket felt heavy around my neck. A soft knock. Henry, holding 2 mugs of tea. Couldn't sleep either, he said. Mind if I join you? We sat in my small sitting room. Outside, Boston glittered. Can I ask you something personal? Henry said carefully. You can ask. That locket. You touch it whenever you're stressed. What's inside? My hand went to it instinctively. For 45 years, I'd kept this secret, protected it, hidden it, but Henry wasn't Amanda. He'd shown me kindness without wanting anything in return. A photograph, I said quietly. Of your husband? No. I took a breath. Of my son. Henry's eyes widened. Amanda has a brother? Had. He lived 2 days. My voice cracked. Michael. Born March 14th, 1978. Died March 16th. Premature. His lungs weren't developed. I held him while he died. I'm so sorry. I opened the locket with trembling fingers. Inside was a tiny photograph, black and white, faded. A baby, impossibly small. Eyes closed, peaceful. Below it, a hospital bracelet. Sullivan, Michael R., 03-1478, 03-1678. Amanda doesn't know, I whispered. She was born 5 months later. I never told her. Never told anyone except Robert. It hurt too much. Henry stared at the photo, tears in his eyes. Why are you showing me? Because you asked? Because you cared? Because I closed the locket? Because soon, Amanda will find out. And when she does, she'll understand exactly how much I've sacrificed, how much I've endured. How will she find out? I smiled sadly, because tomorrow Patricia is filing a comprehensive lawsuit. Fraud, elder abuse, coercion. Part of that documentation includes my medical history, including Michael. You're using your dead son to— No, I interrupted. I'm using the truth. Amanda thinks I had an easy life, that I gave her money because I had plenty. She doesn't know I paid $89,000 in hospital bills for a baby who lived 48 hours, that I worked 3 jobs while she was little because her father was drinking himself to death over losing Michael, that every dollar I gave her came from years of grief and sacrifice she never knew about. Henry nodded slowly. She's going to feel like hell. Good, she should. We sat in silence, drinking tea, watching the city lights. Tomorrow, the legal war would intensify. Tomorrow, Amanda would learn about the brother she never knew. Tomorrow, everything would change. But tonight, for the first time in weeks, I felt something like peace. Revenge, I was learning, could be very satisfying. The lawsuit hit like a bomb. Patricia filed it at 9 a.m. By noon, Amanda had the documents. By 1 p.m., she was at the Whitmore Mansion's gate, screaming into the intercom, "Mom! Open this gate right now! How dare you drag our family through court? How dare you?" Charles pressed the button calmly. "Ms. Torres, this is private property. Leave or I'm calling the police. I want to see my mother. Your mother doesn't want to see you. Let me in or I swear to God." I pressed the button. "Let them in, Charles. All of them. Let's finish this." 5 minutes later, they stormed into the front parlor. Amanda, Brian, Karen, and Evelyn, all 4 of them, faces twisted with rage. Evelyn had her phone out, already filming. "Mom, what is this?" Amanda threw the legal papers at me. They scattered across the Persian rug. "Elder abuse? Fraud? You're suing your own daughter. You tried to steal my house. We were trying to help you. By forging my signature? By planning to declare me incompetent?" Brian stepped forward, face red. "Those are lies. We never— I have your text messages, Brian. All of them." I turned to Karen. "And you. Helping them. Feeding Amanda's greed because you've hated me for 50 years. Karen's face went white. "That's not— I never— You've been jealous since 1970, I continued, voice steady. "When you told everyone I stole your boyfriend. Except it was a lie, wasn't it? Robert chose me. You just couldn't accept it. You always got everything," Karen exploded. "The pretty house, the successful husband, the perfect daughter." "Perfect?" I laughed bitterly. "My daughter is suing me for elder abuse. My husband died of alcoholism, and before that—" I stopped, hand going to my locket. Amanda's eyes followed the movement. "What is that? You're always touching that thing. What's inside? Something you should have known about years ago." "Then show me." I opened the locket, held it out. Amanda stared at the tiny photograph, the hospital bracelet. Her face shifted from anger to confusion. Who is that?" "Your brother, Michael Robert Sullivan. Born March 14th, 1978. Died March 16th, 1978. He was premature. Lived 48 hours. The room went silent. Amanda's hands trembled as she took the locket. "I had a brother?" "You had a brother I held while he died. A brother whose hospital bills cost me $89,000. Money I paid by working 3 jobs while you were a baby. While your father drank himself sick because he couldn't handle the grief." Tears ran down Amanda's face. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you never asked. You never asked about my life, my struggles, my pain. You only asked for money. That's not fair." "Fair?" My voice rose. "I gave you everything. $67,000 for college, $34,000 for your wedding. That watch you wear, the fake Cartier you lied about. Everything I had went to you, and it was never enough." Brian tried to interrupt. "Mrs. Sullivan, you're being emotional." "Emotional?" I turned on him. "You forged my signature. You planned to have me declared insane. You're drowning in gambling debts and thought my house would save you." His face went pale. "How do you— Charles Whitmore is a federal judge. Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Karen grabbed Amanda's arm. "Come on, this is pointless. Your mother's clearly— Clearly what?" I snapped. "Clearly done being used? Clearly tired of being invisible? Clearly finished protecting people who see me as an ATM? Evelyn, still filming, whispered, "Grandma." I looked at her. 16 years old, phone always out, always performing. "What are you going to do with that video, Evelyn? Post it for likes? Make fun of the old lady standing up for herself?" For the first time, Evelyn looked ashamed. The phone lowered. Amanda sank into a chair, still holding the locket. "I didn't know. About Michael. About the hospital bills. About Dad's drinking. You never said I was protecting you. I thought that's what mothers did." My voice broke. But protection became exploitation. Love became obligation. And somewhere along the way, you forgot I was a person, not just a wallet. Karen moved toward the door. "This is ridiculous. Maggie's always been dramatic, playing the victim." "Get out," Henry's voice, cold and hard from the doorway. "All of you, except Amanda." Brian looked like he might argue, but Charles appeared behind Henry. "The collectors are waiting outside, Mr. Torres. I suggest you deal with them before they get impatient." Brian's face went ashen. He practically ran for the door. Karen followed, shooting me a look of pure hatred. Only Amanda remained, holding the locket, tears streaming down her face. And Evelyn, phone finally off, staring at her mother like she'd never seen her before. "Mom," Evelyn said quietly, "we should go." "No," Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. "I need— Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know— You didn't want to know," I corrected. "It was easier to see me as selfish, as someone withholding money you deserved." Amanda looked up, mascara running. "What do I do now?" "You grow up. You take responsibility. You stop blaming everyone else for your choices. Can you forgive me?" I looked at my daughter, 45 years old, finally seeing me as something other than an obstacle. "Ask me again in 6 months, after you've proven this isn't just guilt talking." Amanda nodded, handed back the locket, stood slowly. At the door, she turned. "Mom, the house, it's yours. I'll sign whatever you need. I know it's mine. I don't need your permission." She flinched, nodded again, and left. Evelyn paused. "Grandma? Can I come visit you? Without them?" I looked at my granddaughter, really looked at her. "Yes, you can." After they left, I collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted, hollowed out. Henry sat beside me. "That was brutal, necessary." Charles poured brandy. "To standing your ground." I raised my glass, hands still shaking. My phone buzzed. A notification. Evelyn had posted the video, but not the version I expected. The caption read, "My grandmother is the strongest woman I know, and I've been blind." Family. Truth. Respect. 240,000 views in 3 hours. The tide was turning. 3 months passed. Brian was indicted for fraud. Bail set at $45,000, money he didn't have. Last I heard, he was awaiting trial in Suffolk County Jail. Karen moved to Florida. The pension audit found irregularities dating back to 2003. She lost $12,000 in back payments and her teaching license. The video Evelyn posted went viral, 2 million views, and Karen couldn't show her face in Boston anymore. Amanda filed for divorce. Charles gave me the cottage behind the main house, rent-free for life. A small place with a garden, a fireplace, and peace. Evelyn visited every weekend. She'd stopped posting everything online, started asking questions instead. Real questions about my life, my past, Michael. "Why didn't Grandpa handle it better?" she asked one Saturday, helping me plant roses. "Grief breaks people in different ways. Your grandfather drowned his in alcohol. I drowned mine in work. And Mom, your mother grew up never knowing why I was always tired, always working. She thought I was just cold." Evelyn nodded slowly. "She's different now. Smaller, quieter. Loss does that." On a Tuesday in August, Amanda appeared at my door. I almost didn't recognize her. She'd lost weight, no makeup, hair pulled back simply, wearing jeans and a plain sweater, no designer labels. "Mom, can we talk?" I let her in. We sat in my small living room, afternoon light through lace curtains, the smell of fresh bread from the oven. "I've been in therapy," Amanda said, 3 times a week. Dr. Morrison recommended it as part of the settlement. And I'm learning that I became the thing I hated most. Dad's alcoholism made me obsessed with control, with money, with never being vulnerable. She looked at her hands. I turned you into an ATM because I was terrified of needing anyone emotionally. That's very insightful. Is it enough? I poured tea, Earl Grey, her father's favorite. Amanda, you can't erase what you did. You tried to steal my home. You forged documents. You planned to have me declared incompetent. I know. But you also didn't know about Michael, about the hospital bills, about how hard things really were. Tears ran down her face. I should have asked. Yes, you should have. We sat in silence. Outside, Henry was teaching Evelyn how to prune roses. Their laughter drifted through the window. I brought you something, Amanda said, pulling an envelope from her purse. $12,000. Everything I can liquidate right now. It's not even close to what I owe you, but keep it. Mom, you're going to need it. Divorce is expensive. Starting over is expensive. I sipped my tea. Besides, I don't need your money. I never did. I needed your respect, your time, your love. Can I give you that now? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. 45 years old, broken down, rebuilt. I don't know yet, I said honestly. Ask me again in 6 months. Amanda nodded, wiped her eyes. Fair enough. She stood to leave, paused at the door. Mom, I went to Michael's grave, put flowers there. I hope that's okay. My throat tightened. What kind? White lilies. The woman at the flower shop said they mean the soul's return to innocence. After she left, I sat with my tea crying quietly. That evening, Charles, Henry, Evelyn, and I had dinner together. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans from my garden. Real family, not blood. Choice. Mrs. Sullivan, Henry said, I have news. I matched for my residency, Boston Children's Hospital. That's wonderful. I'm specializing in neonatal intensive care. I looked at him, understanding. Because of Michael? Because of you. Your story made me realize some babies don't make it. But the ones who do need people who understand how precious they are. I couldn't speak, just reached across and squeezed his hand. After dinner, I stood in my garden. The roses I'd planted were blooming, white, pink, red. My phone buzzed, a text from Amanda. Thank you for the tea, and for not giving up on me completely. I'll prove I can change. I promise. I didn't respond immediately. Promises were cheap. Actions mattered, but I didn't delete the message either. The church bells from St. James rang 7 times. The hour Robert and I used to have dinner. I touched my locket, but not the old one. Henry had given me a new one last month. Inside was a photo. Him, Evelyn, Charles, and me in the garden. Family by choice. The old locket with Michael's photo was in a velvet box in my drawer. Still sacred, still loved, but no longer the only thing I carried. I looked back at the cottage. Warm light in the windows. Laughter inside. 70 years old. And I was finally learning something crucial. Family isn't who you're born to. It's who stays when everything falls apart. Who sees you not as a resource, but as a person. And forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's deciding whether the door can still open. I hadn't decided yet about Amanda. Maybe in 6 months I would, or maybe not. But for the first time in my life, that uncertainty felt like freedom. Amanda kept her promise. Slowly, quietly, weekly lunches, no talk of money, just conversations about life, therapy, rebuilding. Evelyn graduated high school, decided to study social work. I want to help families before they break, she told me. Brian served 18 months, lost his medical license. Last I heard, he was working construction in New Hampshire. Karen never contacted me again. Fine by me. Charles passed away peacefully last spring. Left me the cottage in his will. Henry inherited the mansion, keeps my suite ready for family dinners. And Amanda? She's not the daughter I raised. She's better, humbler, real. We'll never have what we lost, but we're building something new. Slower, stronger, honest. If you're reading this and you see yourself in my story, Whether you're the parent being used or the child who finally woke up, know this: it's never too late to say, enough. It's never too late to demand respect. It's never too late to choose yourself. What would you have done in my place? Would you forgive Amanda or keep the door closed forever? Comment below. And if you have your own story of family betrayal and redemption, share it. Your voice matters. Your pain matters. You matter. Never forget that. Margaret Sullivan, Boston, Massachusetts.